seeming contradictions.
Yeah.
Contradictions like, and Jesus Christ died, and on the third day he rose again. But is it 3 days or not 3 days? Those kind of contradictions. Clear explanations given. Things like people not realizing that there was what is called a high Sabbath and there's a normal Sabbath.
Excellent. I was teaching.
I mean, people are just, so I kept quiet about that.
Yeah.
The people just bring that up, I don't say anything.
Yeah.
People talking about when did Jesus Christ actually die? Was it at 3 p.m. or was it at 12 noon?
Uncle, this is preaching mode.
I am in preaching mode. I'm always going to
Are we not going to have a discussion?
No, you can preach and discuss.
Can we not discuss?
Preaching and discussion are not contrary,
we're
my brother.
Uncle, you're putting your faith in a book that you don't even know who authored.
There we go, my brother.
Should we discuss this in the authorship?
Okay,
if you are...
Sorry, you said.
Okay, no,
You talk about...
Yeah, there's a camera there.
You talk about authorship.
Yeah.
Let's just assume what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
That we didn't know who the authors were.
Yeah.
What would you expect the testimony of all the church fathers? One would be saying one thing, another body would say another thing, another person would say it was Peter, another person would say it was Paul.
Yeah.
What you get is a unanimous, from as far as France to Egypt to Greece, they're all with one voice saying it's Matthew, Mark, Luke and John who wrote the Gospels. I don't know if you're talking about, that's what you're referring to.
Now, let me just add this. Why would your Quran...
No, don't change the subject. Don't change the subject. Don't change the subject.
I'm not changing the subject.
So let me respond to him.
Wait.
Let me respond to him, please. Don't change the subject.
I'm not changing the subject.
You're talking about the fight. Let me respond to him.
Can I
Uncle,
add something?
Let me respond to him.
It's the same issue.
No, it's not. Can I respond to him?
Well, you've not heard what I'm about to say.
You're talking about the Quran.
All right, say.
Okay.
But then you allow me to say,
Yeah, no problem. This consensus, right? So we have two views, right? The authorship and the creed. The creed they differed on, and that's a different discussion. We can discuss that. But what I'm saying about the authorship, right? The first one to actually attribute this was Papias in 130 AD. As you know, and you see this in classical history, Papias said that Matthew, Mark, Luke and John wrote these accounts. Now Papias, as you see quoted, he said, I got this information from elders. He did not say who these elders were. What was it on? Papias says you get this information from elders. He didn't say who these elders were, and that was around 130 AD. After then, they formed a consensus. Nobody before them.
I'll tell you what, you talk, I'll tell you what Papias really
First
said.
and foremost, why would we need any third or fourth party when we actually had the disciples themselves?
Because you don't...
Let me finish.
You asked me a question.
No, I am...
Okay. Let me know.
How is that? It's rhetoric.
Okay, let me know that. Okay.
First and foremost, we have a following of disciples.
No, you don't. Okay, carry on. Go on, Uncle. I was going to...
So in other words, Paul did not exist. Peter did not exist. Matthew did not exist.
Tell me when you're finished.
Medical practitioner Luke did not exist. Lawyer Paul did not exist. Who else? Thomas did not exist. People who even spread the religion to the... Are you from Arabia, sir?
No. Tell me when you're finished, though.
All right. And then, not to make matters even worse, your Quran confirms and says and asserts that the scripture actually really does exist. That there is a Torah and an Injil, and you have people from antiquity building their whole existence around it, and you are saying that there was no authorship?
Can I respond now? Are you done?
Please kindly respond.
The average lifespan at the time, right, of Jesus was around 50 odd years. The Gospels were written, according to your own scholars, they were written around 60 to 70.
At the scholars we're talking about.
Dr. David E. Oon, Dr. Colin Conway, Dr. Bar Ehrman, Dr. Ben Rivington, your own scholars, yes? Your own scholars, they say that these accounts were written around... Let me respond.
My intention is for you to give your response, not to speak to
Uncle, let me respond. They say that these accounts were written around 60 to 70 AD. The average lifespan at that time was 50 odd years. Okay? So it's very unlikely, the first point, it's unlikely that these disciples would have even been alive at the time these accounts were written. The second point, you have nothing from the time of disciples, nobody testifying that these men wrote these... Let me respond. You have nobody from the time of the disciples testifying that these men wrote these accounts. Let me respond, Uncle. What you have is Papias in 130 AD. Papias says that Matthew wrote Matthew, Mark wrote Mark, Luke wrote Luke, John wrote John, and Papias said I got this information from elders. He did not say who these elders were, and Eusebius himself said he is an unreliable source in the classical history. You have nothing earlier than Papias.
Excuse me, sir.
Okay, so hold on one sec. Can I ask, if I was to give you internal evidence from the Bible that it was, so when did they say John was written?
If I'm not mistaken, some say around 60, 50.
Okay, so are you prepared, if we gave you evidence for you to revisit that view, and that you're not going to blindly just follow?
If you give me evidence outside of the Bible.
No, I'm giving you internal evidence.
No, but what I'm saying...
Because that's what even the scholars do. They look at the internal evidence, and obviously they look at the external.
Okay.
So if we go to the internal...
Okay, give me the internal.
So I'll give you a couple.
Yeah.
So they say John was written about 90 AD.
I didn't say 90, I think around... from the four Gospels, they give a time limit of around 50 to 70 odd.
Okay, but John, normally they say 90.
Okay.
That's what they normally say.
I didn't claim that, by the way.
No, I'm just saying what the scholars...
no problem.
People are slaves to the scholars.
No problem.
And I want to show you how the scholars
are wrong.
God has given us a brain for us to think for ourselves. So it says this in John chapter 5.
Yeah.
Now there is, present tense, in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches. So he's speaking present tense, there is. So this would obviously preclude that this happened pre-70 AD. Yeah? And even archaeology has found this very same thing that John spoke about in chapter 5.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if have you seen this? The pool of Bethesda. The pool of Bethesda.
Is that encyclopedia?
It's archaeology. I mean, this is
something you can go and find.
There's something you can go find out.
It's public knowledge. So
it's public knowledge.
So what? Yeah.
So here's the author saying there is in Jerusalem, present tense, not there was, because if he was writing after 70 AD, it would have been there was. But he's writing
a co-worker.
Yeah.
And it's somebody who worked in with the person who carried out the event.
Yes.
He wouldn't be speaking.
If he wasn't an eyewitness to what was there in Jerusalem, he wouldn't have said there is. He would have said there was.
Yeah.
So evidently he wrote prior to the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. Yeah. But most scholars say, this is 90 AD.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, how can that be? Logically, you've got a brain.
Okay, can I respond to that?
Try and make that,
Okay. So I'm not denying that some of the things in the Bible were written at the time of Jesus. What I'm saying is whoever wrote it was not a disciple. It was passed down. And I'll give you the evidence. In the book of Luke, on the first chapter, right? In the book of Luke, it says, many have undertaken to draw up an account of things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who were from the first eyewitnesses. So,
what's wrong with that?
According to Luke himself,
if you and I...
No, what I'm saying...
I think I need to bring this scenario up. Don't be offended.
Okay.
If you and I were colleagues, imagine, let me even say it in an Islamic form.
Yeah.
If you were one of the first caliphs that worked with Prophet Muhammad, and I know you work with Prophet Muhammad, and then I am a younger mentee, and I'm working with you, and you are telling me these things. I've seen your work with Muhammad. I've seen that you are trustworthy. And I've seen that you are an eyewitness. And I now write an account from you. Is it authentic or isn't it?
I'll tell you, there's a difference.
My brother, please.
I will answer, uncle. Calm down. That's not a fair example. That's not a fair example. I'll tell you why. Luke, yes? Luke says, I got this information from others and passed it down. So did Papias. Papias said, I got this information from elders and passed it down. The difference is, with me, you know who I am. You can verify my memory, if I'm honest. With Papias and with Luke, they did not say who they got the information from. We have no idea where it came from.
So Luke and all that he wrote about Peter.
Luke said, okay, go
and all that he wrote about Peter is not concrete enough. Luke, who wrote the book of Acts.
You have no way to affirm that. When was the book of Acts written? When was it written?
Let me continue.
Okay, go on.
And you are now saying that the comments made by Peter, who actually mentioned Luke as, the physician.
Yeah.
You are saying that he didn't have the relationship he had with Luke.
Can I respond?
Peter.
Can I respond?
And no, please. You know the reason.
You're asking me questions and you're not letting me respond.
Because some of them are still rhetorical.
So then tell me.
Give me 2 minutes.
Okay, go on.
In other words, if I am to take what you have just said, in other words, it's even worse for the Quran.
Okay.
There's no basis for you to believe any of the Quran. There's no basis for you to believe even what is said the Prophet said.
Okay.
There's no basis for it.
Okay.
You know the reason why I can say that?
Okay, go on.
Without being disrespectful. The reason I can say that is because first and foremost, you are talking about a particular prophet who it is said was not literate.
Yeah.
Christ is not ever mentioned as not being literate.
Listen, you're switching the goalposts.
No, I'm not. If you want to talk
am I talking about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
My brother, I am not switching the goalpost. I am stating.
So stick to what I said.
Excuse me, sir. I am stating the fact.
Yeah.
And whenever you want to assess a thing, you must look at the credibility and the abilities of the people who are the subjects in that thing.
Which is the disciples.
The disciples and Christ.
Yes. So talk about them.
Now you are now telling me that I should believe. Should I believe in the Quran, sir?
I haven't gone into that yet.
I believe in the Quran.
That's a separate discussion.
I'm asking you a simple question.
That's a separate discussion.
It's very simple. Yes or no?
Uncle. This is being disingenuous.
I'm not being disingenuous.
That's a separate discussion. That's a different discussion.
I'm saying this because my objective of standing here is.
That's a different discussion.
Can I finish?
If you're going to address my point, yes. If you're not, no.
Can I finish?
If you're going to address my point, yes.
Can I finish? If I'm going to address your point and I address your point the way you would like me to,
okay, Uncle.
Then it won't be fair.
Uncle, I'm not going to carry on this conversation. I can speak to him instead. You're being disingenuous, Uncle.
I'm not being disingenuous.
Then address what I just said. Address what I said.
You are telling me to answer your questions your way.
No, I'm not.
That's what you're
doing. I'm not asking about the Quran. I'm asking about
I'm telling you that it is relevant.
It's not relevant.
Okay,
it was nice speaking to you.
No, but you know what the point I'm trying to make? I understand what you're saying. What you're saying, and this is what I normally see with Muslims. They go to an atheist, secular worldview of scholarship to critique the Bible.
I didn't do that.
No, but normally, I'm not saying you are.
Bro, what other Muslims do is not relevant to me. Because I quoted Christian scholars. I never even spoke about Bar Ehrman. I've never referenced to him either.
So basically, are you saying that Christian scholars say that John wasn't an eyewitness to the accounts of Jesus?
I didn't say that. What I said is that according to the majority of Christian scholars who I quoted, their view is that these disciples didn't write these accounts. Now you're saying that
which Christian scholar? So
other than Bar Ehrman,
he's not a Christian.
No, he's a scholar. He's a scholar of Christianity, but not a Christian. Dr. David E. Oon. Dr. David E. Oon. Yeah. David E. Oon. Yeah. Dr. Colleen Conway. Dr. Ben Witherington.
These are Christians or these?
Yeah, Christians. Christians, right? Dr. Colleen Conway. Colleen Conway. Yeah. So this is why I'm saying that that's not strong evidence. I'm not denying that some aspects of this Bible were written by people who were around at the time of Jesus. What I'm saying is, according to Luke and according to Papias, both of them testify that this information was gathered from people who were not disciples. People who were around at the time, but we don't know who they are.
Who were not disciples?
Paul claims, Luke claims that he interviewed the eyewitnesses. I mean, how much better can you get?
Okay, who are these eyewitnesses? How do we know if they were honest and they had a strong memory? And what were their names?
Okay, so let's even go from John. Let's stick with John because I gave you John. And it says very plainly, this is the disciple who testifies of these things and wrote these things, and we know his testimony is true. He's claiming, I'm writing these things, I have seen these things, and even if you go to the first epistle of John, he says, we have touched him, we have heard him, we've handled.
I know, but the issue at hand is, your evidence at the moment is, the disciples wrote this account because the Bible says so.
We're giving you eternal evidence.
I know, but that's the evidence. What I'm saying is, before we go into what the Bible says, we have to see how reliable is the text itself. We can't go to we're presupposing that disciples wrote this account. So what I'm saying is, let's see how likely it is that disciples actually did write these accounts. The average lifespan at that time was around 50 odd years, right?
So first of all, we've given you internal evidence that these people were true.
That's not evidence for me. Can I say why?
Okay, let me just give you there's a guy called William Ramsey. He was an atheist. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him. Look at him up. He went to disprove the Bible. And he went to go look at the story of Acts and Luke. and he came up being a believer. Yeah, so he's not a Christian. He wasn't a Christian. But he just objectively, because Luke, I think there's over 30 archaeological finds we've found later that corroborates the book of Luke and Acts. So what I'm saying is, even if you're saying internally you don't want to believe it, archaeology speaks and confirms what's in the scriptures. You get my point?
In too many places.
Okay, again, the point of archaeology, right?
So what I'm saying, my point is, so we know these people were genuine, they weren't making this up. They were there, they saw, and they knew, and they were acquainted with the people, the times, the culture, and the times that they lived in. If that makes sense.
Can I ask a question? What's your understanding of what proof is?
Can I address what you said?
After that.
So the point about archaeology, right? First, archaeology isn't concrete evidence. I'll tell you why. As one example, right? People believe that we have parts of the cross and parts of Jesus' shin bone with a nail in it, right? You can see, I don't remember where the museum is. I believe it's in Jerusalem. No, there are museums. No, there are museums. I can show you. There are museums which hold, for example, a piece of bone with a nail in it, which is claimed to be a part of Jesus' shin bone. Or you have the Shrine of Turin as an example. Shrine of Turin, The Shrine of Turin as an example, which is used as a piece of archaeological evidence, or the piece of bone with a nail in it from the time of the supposed crucifixion. There's difference of opinion on whether these things are even authentic or not. So we can't use archaeological evidence in this case unless you can 100% concrete prove the reliability and authenticity of it. It can't be used as evidence. Now, secondly, what I'm saying is about the Bible, that it testifies that disciples wrote these accounts. The issue at hand is that the average lifespan was around 50 odd years, right? Around 50 odd years was the lifespan around that time.
I don't know where you're getting that from.
It was around 50 odd years.
You have to give me evidence for that.
Okay, I'll give you evidence in a minute. Okay. Around 50 odd years was the lifespan around that time. Now what I'm saying is, right, these accounts, do you have anything from the first century, the time of Jesus, to prove that they were actually written down at that time?
Say that again, what's the question?
Do you have anything from the time of Jesus or the time of the disciples, or anything even from the first century to actually prove that these were written down at the time?
Well, I gave you John.
No, but you gave me John saying it. But I'm saying, do you have anything outside of the Bible?
Well, the archaeology proves what he was saying was true.
Yeah, but do you...
So any person who's looking at this objectively will look at the internal evidence, external evidence, it matches up. What's the conclusion?
It doesn't. It doesn't. Because what? No, I'm telling you why it doesn't. First off, the view of your own scholars is that it doesn't. That's the view of the majority of your own scholars that it doesn't.
So
Uncle, I've named them like three times.
Do you know the number, the depth, the millennia of scholarship that's confirmed?
How many?
You are saying this scholars.
Like who?
The only people that normally Muslims quote is Bar Ehrman.
Uncle, I don't care.
If I am to start listing them, it will take too long.
This is disingenuous. No, this is disingenuous.
Disingenuous. Do you know what the history
the same five.
I don't have to. You know the reason why I don't have to?
Because you don't know. Because you don't know.
Can I finish it?
Because you don't know.
No, it's not. I don't know. I teach this stuff.
You're telling me.
Look, you are asking me.
I'm not asking you. I'm talking to him because you're being disingenuous.
Okay, let him. So no. What was your point?
Are you trying to have a discourse in which I am allowed
with
to?
With all due respect, with you,
Excuse me, sir. Are we trying to have a discourse here in which I am?
I will not.
In other words, you don't want me to disagree with you.
No.
That's what you're angry with.
Uncle, no, I'm not angry.
I am saying to you that, look, I'm trying to even tell you certain facts.
Okay, tell me when you're done so I can respond.
Good. Thank you for that. First and foremost, this Bible has had scholarship, thousands upon thousands of scholars who have examined the content and from the Latin to the Greek to the Aramaic to the Hebrew to the different shades of Hebrew. So, when you now start coming all the way after all those millennia of history and start talking about certain scholars, I will call them latter-day scholars, trying to disprove what has already been proven. Even the Romans themselves, Roman historians, actually have stated certain things which corroborate what's in the Bible, in particular about the
can I respond now?
the death of Christ, his crucifixion. I have to keep quiet now because or else you will say I don't want to discuss with me. And
Uncle, the reason why I said it is this, okay? You keep making points with no reference. You told me that you can name multiple scholars.
Should I give you a book?
I said, no, I don't want a book. You said you can name multiple scholars. I said just name 5.
I don't have to. I can give you a book with hundreds of.
Okay.
So let me give you the book.
No, wait, I'm saying this. If you're going to make arguments and I'm going to ask for evidence and you say I don't have to give it, then there's no point discussing.
No. So listen, this is my point. I think it's pointless for us to quote scholars, you to quote scholars. Let's come with evidence. So even if you're saying scholars say this, you need to be basing. Okay, you've looked at the evidence of the scholars.
I'll give the evidence,
and thereby this is what I conclude the scholars are right.
Should I give the evidence?
So let's not. Do you understand? Let's not play the scholarship.
I'll give the evidence. I'll give the evidence.
Okay. So what is it about you find from these scholars?
First and foremost, I think we should set a proper good ground. What does the word evidence mean to you?
Yes.
Because I'm hearing a lot of things you are saying.
Okay, tell me if you deem this as evidence, okay? So the scholars say this and why did they say it? What's the evidence that they base it upon? Okay? Now I'm not denying that aspects of this Bible were written by eyewitnesses. I'm not denying that. Aspects.
Please.
Uncle, let me finish. Uncle, let me finish.
Look, gentlemen, I want to make sense. Listen to me. I am saying to you, what is your definition of what evidence is?
Uncle.
If you don't define what evidence is, you can bring up anything.
Uncle, let him finish.
What does he mean by evidence? Let him establish that.
I will let him decide if he deems it as evidence or not.
What does evidence mean?
I will go by his criteria. If he deems it as evidence, fine. If he doesn't, that's his fault.
But what does evidence mean to you?
Uncle. So what I'm saying is, okay, I'm not denying that aspects of this were written by eyewitness accounts. I'm not denying that. Not written by eyewitness accounts, sorry, but were brought by eyewitnesses. I'm not denying that. The aspects of it did come from eyewitnesses. I will never deny that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, this is the issue. These eyewitnesses were not disciples. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Let's
hear him out.
These eyewitnesses were not disciples. And second point, we have no idea who these eyewitnesses were. We have no idea if they were honest. We have no idea if they had good memory. We have no idea of any of that. I'll tell you why I say that.
Okay. So listen, let's hear the evidence.
Okay.
I want to hear it, yeah.
So Luke and Papias, right? Luke and Papias. First, shall I address Papias first?
Okay, but I don't understand what Papias is. We're talking about the Bible now.
Yeah, I'll address Papias first. The reason why I'm saying Papias. Before Papias, right? Nobody ever said Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John wrote these accounts. Nobody attributed these names to these gospels.
Okay, let me just respond to that. Papias was born in about 60 AD, right?
Yeah.
So forget about when he 60 AD. So imagine he's 30 years away from the death of Christ, right?
Yeah.
Maybe when he was about 10, 20, 30, he would have been well acquainted with the eyewitnesses who probably still were alive at that time, right? Also, can I say this? You say Papias is the first.
Wait, when did you say he was born, sorry?
About 60 AD.
Some people say 60, 70, difference of opinion.
So my point is that you say Papias is the first. You know, like most of the writers of the church fathers, we don't have most of it.
Yeah.
So when you say Papias is the first, that's the wrong assumption. Like there's letters of Paul's that we don't have.
No, but okay.
So what I'm saying is, what we have of left of what we have, even Papias' writings we don't have. We have from Eusebius.
Yeah.
So there's probably a greater witness of testimony within the church fathers of who these authors were.
Yeah.
But if you just want to home in on Papias to say he's the first, I wouldn't say that's.
Unless you actually have anything earlier than Papias, you have no way to actually prove that.
Yeah, but why do you dispute Papias' claim? I don't understand why.
I'll tell you why I dispute Papias' claim.
Okay.
So Papias, what he claimed, he made a few points and I'll go over these points. First point, he said that I got this information from elders.
Okay, let's read. I'm going to read what Papias said.
Okay.
Yeah? So you listen to that.
Okay. So,
I shall not hesitate also to put into ordered form for you, along with the interpretations, everything I learned carefully in the past from the elders, and noted down carefully, for the truth of which I vouch. For unlike most people, I took no pleasure in those who told many different stories, but only in those who taught the truth. Nor did I take pleasure in those who reported their memory of someone else's commandment, but only in those who reported their memory of the commandments given by the Lord to the faith and proceeding from the truth itself. and if by chance anyone who had been in attendance on the elders arrived. That makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. I made inquiries about the words of the elders, what Andrew or Peter had said, or Philip, or Thomas, or James, or John, or Matthew, or any other of the Lord's disciples, and whatever Ariston and John the elder, the Lord's disciples, were saying. For I did not think that information from the books would profit me as much as information from a living and surviving voice.
Okay, can I
That's
respond?
not something that's talking about
That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying. Please don't be offended.
Can I respond? Can I respond?
Before you respond, I want to say this. What is your definition of what evidence is?
Okay, let me
It's so
respond.
important. Or else you'll be giving us evidence, which you consider as evidence, and we will be seeking for evidence. So our idea of what evidence is not the same.
Okay.
Across purposes.
Okay. This is okay. Fine. Now, you keep asking this, I'll respond. Okay, but after, can I address him?
Or in other words, you won't address me.
No,
I will interest in
no,
me
because
now.
he just asked. He's asking me.
Go ahead.
Did you understand what I read? I mean,
Yeah,
I may have not read it as fluent as
Evidence
I
to me
should
is
have.
this: extant manuscripts from the time of the disciples. Extant manuscripts. Testimony from the time of the disciples that these disciples actually offer these accounts. A chain of narration going back to the disciples. These three things are forms of evidence for me. Now let me do something. Papias, there's a few issues with his statement. The first issue is that Papias claimed Matthew wrote in Hebrew. Now we know that the earliest manuscripts, P50.
Can I say one thing? I know a lot of people do say that, but there's another interpretation that says that he wrote in the Hebrew form of Greek.
Yeah.
You must have known that there are some scholars who use that terminology.
Yeah.
And if you read Matthew, it is the most Jewish
leaning
type of gospel compared to all the other gospels. So there is that another interpretation.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously there's your interpretation as
I'll
well.
respond to that, no problem. So, first issue is this, right? That the official language spoken there was Aramaic. And then the official language of the Roman courts would have been Latin. And some people who were businessmen due to trade routes would have known Greek. So the first issue is that, from my perspective, it's very unlikely that Matthew would have even known Greek. The second issue...
The tax collector.
I'm working for the Roman Empire. I'm working for the Roman Empire. Sorry.
Matthew, John, Luke, all of them. Okay, the second issue, right? Let's suppose he did know Greek. Papias says I got this information from elders. He doesn't say who the elders were. So we can't affirm, were they honest? Did they have a good memory? Did they actually know disciples? We have nothing to go back on. We have no... Papias said it, but how can we ourselves affirm it?
I thought you mentioned...
Yeah, he mentioned disciples. I'm saying, but this information he got from elders. We don't know
who heard the voice of these
and how
disciples.
can we affirm that when we don't know who these elders are?
See, so this is where I think the problem is. Your standard of evidence.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
it's a chain of narration.
No, to be fair, I don't even think Islam meets that same standard of evidence that you require of the Bible. Now, one thing you said, you want extant manuscripts.
Yeah.
So the Bible.
Okay,
so let me explain that the Bible was written in papyrus.
Yeah, I know it breaks down. I know.
So the lifespan of papyrus is 100 to 200 years.
Yeah.
So that's impossible.
Yeah.
Second of all, when Constantine became a Christian and politicized Christianity, he authored all the New Testament written, and we still have them. Vaticanus, Sinaiticus. I think Alexandrian was 5th century, but all these others are 4th century. Uthman, I'm not even trying to bring Islam in it, but I'm just saying, are you being consistent? Uthman apparently authorized 5 Qurans, sent them to the 5 districts. To this very day, you don't have those original Uthmanic texts. We've got when Constantine was in charge, we still got those same texts.
I dare say that even before.
Yeah, and we've got even before.
Text.
What I'm saying, we've got. What I'm saying, I'm not angry. With Uthman, with the Muslims, they had control. Like Christianity was a persecuted sect even before. Their texts were burnt and everything. Muslims had total control. Where are those original Uthmanic manuscripts that you even expect from the New Testament, which you don't have?
Okay.
Which is 700 years later.
I don't expect that. I say it's one form of evidence. 2 other forms of evidence would be you have someone testifying from the time of the disciples that they wrote these accounts. That's the second form. And the third form would be if Papias had a chain of narration, but he stops at elders and doesn't specify who these elders are. So my issue is, how can we affirm that these elders were honest men, that they actually did know their disciples, that they actually had a good memory? How can we affirm that? Because we have no idea who these elders are. He says, the disciples wrote this account, I got it from elders, and no one knows who these elders are. So you're relying on the statement of Papias, who Eusebius himself, in ecclesiastical history, Eusebius himself deems Papias to be unreliable.
Okay, no, you go.
First and foremost, and this might sound like a general statement, but it's not really. First and foremost, when people are going to stake their life to believe something, they don't just take it on face value. You are a man like me, we are both men. Now, the precision of the doctrines of Christianity over time has been so clear.
Are you talking about the authorship or the doctrine?
I'm talking the authorship of what? The authorship is the authorship of the doctrine.
No, I'm talking about the doctrine being the creed or the scripture.
I'm not talking about the creed. I'm actually talking about the scripture.
The
scripture being the text,
the Bible.
logos,
Okay, carry on.
Through which the doctrine is written.
Okay, carry on.
So, what I'm saying is that you've had thousands of believers